Welcome to the audio of the non-religious spirituality book, Happy Soul, Hungry Mind, a modern-day parable about practical spirituality. Chapter 17, Confession. Rishi sat frozen. Breathing heavily, Travis scanned the rug. It was a stalemate. Travis looked up.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Rishi didn't respond, his face shell-shocked. Then he closed his eyes and calmed himself. He took several deep breaths. A faint smile broke out and his face relaxed. Rishi opened his eyes and surveyed Travis, who was in a visible discomfort. In a soothing voice, Rishi said,
Travis, you wanted to learn about spirituality.
Travis looked up with guilt on his face.
Yes, I wanted spirituality. I want spirituality. But the timing's just not right. I must focus on Trevisto. That's foremost. I must get my team to deliver. They're not getting it.
Travis shook his head. Rishi closed his eyes briefly and then he said,
Travis, I have dabbled with spirituality all my life, but never pursued it seriously until the last year and a half.
Rishi looked intensely.
I used to think like you. I don't have the time. Other things are more important. I had all the spiritual knowledge, but I was putting in very little time practicing spirituality. Acquiring wisdom and knowledge without acting on it is a waste of time.
Travis listened, not sure he wanted to hear all of that. He seemed to have made up his mind. Rishi watched Travis pull his body up, a sign he was ready to leave. Rishi lifted his palms to stall him, and Rishi said,
You've got to learn from my terrible mistakes. I'm such a miserable person, and if it wasn't for...
Why, Rishi? Why? Why do you put yourself down? What is it? What could you have done to have such a low opinion of yourself? I don't want spirituality now. Big deal. Why do you have to put yourself down?
Rishi folded his arms across his chest and looked down, his eyes moving rapidly. He looked disturbed. Travis was not sure what was going on.
Rishi.
I need to share my story so you can understand. Our minds can ruin our lives. If I hadn't turned to spirituality, I wouldn't have been around.
What do you mean?
2 years ago, I lost my job. We had scheduled Priya's wedding in 9 months. We consider it a sacred duty to give your daughter in wedding. Plus, she was getting married in India, which made it a lot more complex.
Travis did not want to hear the story, but out of respect for Rishi, he engaged.
Why India?
I wanted her to marry someone from Houston, but life had its own plans. She was visiting India with Suchi for a cousin's wedding. She met a boy who's the son of Suchi's friend from high school. They liked each other. We were happy. We know the family well and it all fell into place.
Well, that sounds great.
Well, we had saved money for Priya's wedding, but now we needed a lot more. In India, often the entire wedding costs are borne by the bride's family. Plus, the boy's family is super rich. And so Suchi and I wanted to throw a grand wedding for our only daughter.
Sure.
The costs are incredible. A 5-day event with multiple functions and parties, trousseau for Priya with dresses and purses and shoes, and many sets of jewelry, the gifts for the in-laws and their extended family. Man, we bought our son-in-law a BMW.
Wow, I should have married an Indian girl.
You should have. Weddings in Mumbai are so over the top, so much excess. Plus the number of extended family and relatives and friends. We had 500 people from the groom's side and 300 from our side.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. Our budget was seriously out of control, and of course, I had a little problem. No job. I knew only one place where I could make some money fast.
Oh no.
Travis shook his head.
I borrowed on margin to add funds to my stock investments.
Then what happened?
For 2 months, things were great. I was trading daily. I had the time as I was out of work. Felt the job loss was a blessing. I'd figured I'd make much more money managing my money than working somewhere else. I was hoping to double the money.
Did it crash?
Rishi rolled his eyes.
Big time. There was bad news from China about its economy. The market crashed overnight. I had bought options, and in options trading, if you're making money, you can make a lot. But if you lose big. I got killed.
Man, oh man.
Rishi squeezed the pillow hard.
I panicked big.
Rishi grimaced.
Couldn't think straight. I sold the positions for 60% loss, fearing the crash was going to get even worse. Those talking heads on TV made it sound as if the world was ending.
Rishi looked up at the ceiling, reliving every moment of it.
Wow, buddy. How much did you lose?
20 years of savings, Travis, 20 years of savings, all wiped out.
Rishi's eyes moved side to side.
Over $900,000.
Travis jerked up.
Oh my God, that's a chunk of change.
Travis widened his eyes.
That's a lot of money.
Rishi's face contorted. He grabbed the pillow, put it on his lap, and wrapped his hands around it. He never discussed how much money he had with anyone. He had violated his rule. He froze like a rabbit in the garden caught eating.
That's a lot of money, man. You wanted more? You wanted to double it?
Rishi turned red, not liking the inquisition.
If you had that much,
Travis quickly did the math.
it must have been around 1.5 million. Why feel inadequate? Wasn't that enough for you?
What are you hoping to earn, Travis?
Don't know.
100 million more?
Travis
bobbed his head.
But
what?
that's far-fetched. 5 years in the startup, and still I draw no salary. California is expensive. Living in an apartment on Cindy's salary?
Travis shared without hesitation.
We have barely $15,000 in the bank.
Rishi looked down.
You had 1,000 times what we have. Wait, 100 times.
Rishi felt bad, having no inkling of how much money Travis had.
Sorry, I shouldn't have brought up money.
I don't mind discussing it. As you say, it is what it is. You had talked about an investor who lost $13 million. That wasn't a hypothetical story. That is you, isn't it?
Rishi's face turned pale, his lips quivering, and he said,
I can't describe the devastation I felt. That knot in the stomach, that abject and absolute helplessness. I'd be in the house and I would feel trapped, as if the walls were caving in on me.
I felt that with Nathan.
Travis's face contorted and made him realize pain can come in different forms.
I'm sorry, buddy, for your loss, but I'm glad it was just money.
That wasn't the worst of it.
What in the world could be worse?
Well, now there was no money to throw the grand wedding.
Did you spend your daughter's wedding funds too?
No, never. Would have surely killed myself if I had done that.
Wow, that's a relief.
Well,
what?
Suchi still wanted to have a grand wedding for Priya. All her family was going to be there, her old friends. She didn't want Priya's wedding to be any less because of my screw-up.
Where's the money?
She came up with a solution. She asked her rich brothers, who were more than happy to help. In India, brothers will happily step in, especially if it's a daughter's wedding. It's considered a noble deed. Not to mention they're so wealthy, this was just pocket change.
Well, that's good.
Rishi grimaced.
Nope, not good.
Why?
This was my daughter's wedding, and I couldn't imagine taking a cent from her brothers. That hurt my self-esteem.
Your ego. It would hurt your ego.
It's not about ego, it's...
Rishi looked away. Travis didn't say anything, just shook his head a little.
As a father, it's my responsibility.
Rishi's eyes moistened.
What kind of a father I am if I can't give my daughter a nice wedding? My only daughter.
But you had the money you saved for the wedding, didn't you?
That's what I told my wife. We'll do a good wedding. It won't be grand. And we can scale back on the invitees. But she wouldn't have it. She said in India it's very difficult not to invite people. It's a close-knit society. Everyone knows everyone and everyone knows everything. Not inviting people, she argued, would be highly disrespectful and insulting. She saw no problem in taking help from her brothers and said no one had to know. The problem, I told her, was that I would know. It would rob me of my pride.
Did she agree?
No. She said the wedding was not about me. It was about my daughter, and that should be the only focus. I was mad. I was upset at her. But I was excruciatingly upset with myself. I hated myself. I didn't know if I should bang my head on the walls.
Travis wrinkled his face.
Buddy, weren't you overreacting a bit?
Rishi closed his eyes.
Watching the wedding preparations became a slow and terrible torture. The joy of my daughter's wedding turned into such a horrible pain. I became vegetative, no job, nothing to do during the day. I lost all my confidence. I didn't want to look for another job. I truly hated myself because I was ruining my wife and my daughter's mood.
Rishi's hand trembled. His face turned ashen. Travis stood up and sat down next to Rishi. He put his hand over Rishi's trembling hand ever so gently. He could hear Rishi's deep breathing.
It's okay, my friend. It's okay.
It's not okay. It's not. I focused on the wrong things in life and forgot what was truly important. How I wish I had gathered myself, stopped myself. How I wish even at that stage I had stopped things from getting worse.
Travis stayed silent. Rishi poured it all out.
I continued in that horrible mood until the wedding. At the grand wedding, the thought that my wife's brothers paid for the wedding hounded me. I felt like an outsider at my own daughter's wedding. And then I started drinking.
Oh no, thought Travis.
I drank till I was drunk out of my mind. I didn't realize it. I verbally abused my wife, her brothers, and created a terrible, terrible scene. My wife was so upset and embarrassed.
Rishi cried with tears rolling down his face.
My daughter, I don't even know what she must have felt.
Buddy, Rishi, it's okay.
Travis squeezed his hand.
My high school friend whisked me away to my hotel room and put me to sleep. The only silver lining was that by God's grace, none of my daughter's in-laws saw me out of control. I can't imagine if they had seen me like that. That would have really hurt my daughter's married life.
Rishi held his head.
I'm stunned. You're caring and considerate, buddy. How could you ruin your daughter's precious day?
Rishi cried out, trembling.
She came to me the day after the wedding and said, "Daddy, I hate you."
Travis put his arm around him to console him.
Oh God, what did I do?
Here, have some water, my friend.
Travis handed Rishi the glass of water. Rishi drank it all.
I can get you some more.
He got up and filled it up with cold water. Rishi drank.
Would you like more?
No, thanks.
Travis sat on the couch on his side and waited for Rishi to compose himself.
Well, how are things now?
Rishi looked away, needing some time. Travis reflected on how life affects people.
Priya's fine. She's forgiven me.
Rishi looked back at Travis.
She visited us a few months ago. She's happy.
That's good.
I miss her so much. I really miss her.
And your wife, how's she doing?
She hasn't forgiven me. We live in the same house, but we are living as if we are separated.
Y'all aren't contemplating...
Divorce? No, never. We're quite traditional Indian in our thinking. She would never divorce me, and same here.
Have you tried reconciling? You haven't.
Not really. After we returned to Houston, we haven't really spoken to each other much. I find every excuse to travel. In the beginning, I'd come to Vegas or go to Louisiana practically every other weekend. I'd gamble, drink, find an escape.
Travis threw his left arm up.
Seriously? After drinking got you into such a bind?
Yeah. I drank a lot for the first 2-3 months until I realized my life had completely disintegrated. Then I reminded myself I needed to go back to meditating and find solace in life. It hasn't been a straight recovery. I've gone back and forth. It's been tough, but meditation has stabilized me. I'm becoming much calmer and, dare I say, happier.
Well, what about your wife?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, calmer and happier.
I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Rishi had a sheepish look. Travis looked sternly.
Rishi, how can you talk about helping mankind when you can't care enough about your own wife?
I do care about her. I care about her deeply.
Well, what have you done for her? Let her suffer on her own?
I did apologize to her when we came back to Houston. She hadn't talked to me in Mumbai after the wedding, and I thought maybe she would have cooled down.
And...
Oh no. She was full of anger. Said some really nasty stuff.
Rishi waved his hand.
And you?
Well,
Rishi looked down.
You gave it back too, didn't you?
I did try to be nice, but I was upset. She had taken money from her brothers and ruined the wedding.
Rishi, are you listening to yourself? You talk about the mind and bringing it under control, and look at you, man. Your mind and your ego is totally out of control.
Rishi felt a little offended. He stared for a second and then eased. After a few deep breaths, he said,
Okay, fine. Yes, my ego was hurting. But now I know in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. My daughter's happiness is all that matters.
Exactly, my friend. It was never about your ego. I'm not saying your wife was right in borrowing the money. She should have been more sensitive to how strongly you felt. No, wait. I'll side with her. Her focus was on your daughter and her wedding day. She was right.
Well, whatever. I guess it's water under the bridge now. Next week is our 25th wedding anniversary. I don't even know if we are spending it together.
Rishi, why haven't you reconciled with your wife?
Rishi did not answer.
Why not?
I began practicing meditation, became focused, got a new job, and have been consumed with it, and
You sure your ego's not stopping you?
well, it's not helping.
Seriously, Rishi, you're going to go on living like that? You can't see how your wife is suffering? She did nothing wrong, and you're punishing her.
I'm not punishing her. I'm punishing myself.
Rishi, wake up. Please, don't let your ego stop you.
Rishi listened quietly. Travis turned counselor.
You need to find true bliss, and you're not going to find peace if you don't reconcile with her.
I'll find bliss. I'm making progress.
Fine, I know. But don't you think if you lifted that burden, you'll be happier and make faster progress towards peace? Wouldn't you want to move faster? Why let fear and ego come in the way? Progress, Rishi. Don't be stagnant. Let the river flow. Let the river flow.
Rishi looked down at the floor, then he stood up, walked up the stairs to the bedroom, and closed the door. Travis rested his head back on the couch and closed his eyes. His mind raced feverishly. He was stunned and shocked by Rishi's revelations. He'd always thought Rishi was well off, so the money challenges were a surprise. But what Travis could not get over were Rishi's personal challenges. Rishi was a mentor, a person to look up to. Travis felt his ground had shaken. If Rishi could be so vulnerable, then what could he expect from anyone else, including himself? Travis took out his phone, but put it back without checking his emails. He stood up and paced along the windows. He paused. It struck him. Rishi, with all his knowledge and wisdom, still needed to be watchful, not allow his mind and ego to take control. Travis realized if Rishi needed to be careful, then how much more he, Travis, would need to be careful to manage his own mind. Travis took a deep breath. Then he turned to the windows and drew the curtains aside, revealing a beautiful late afternoon sky scattered with clouds, not too bright. The sun played peekaboo through the clouds. He heard the door open upstairs and saw Rishi walk out of the bedroom. Rishi walked down the stairs and came up to the window. His eyes were puffed up, but his face was calm. He looked out at the view.
I'm going to reconcile with Suchi. I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Rishi looked at Travis.
I'll apologize sincerely for all the hurt I've created in her life, in our lives, and in our daughter's life. All the hurt because of my hungry mind. The universe has blessed me by showing me the path to my happy soul. I'll not let my hungry mind ruin my family's happiness and prevent the blissful union with my soul.
Travis took a step toward Rishi, shook his hand, and then embraced him in a tight hug, both deriving comfort and peace from the embrace. A beam of sunray broke through the clouds and shone on Rishi's face. He stepped back from the embrace. Travis saw the light on Rishi's face.
Should I draw the curtains?
No, let's leave it open. It feels nice. I need some water.
They refilled their glasses from the refrigerator. As they sat back down, Rishi said,
I've never understood how I can make huge mistakes in life and yet be so driven to spirituality.
Well,
I can understand the desire to be spiritual, but what I can't understand is the progress I make when I meditate. Spirituality is growing in me leaps and bounds, in spite of my huge ego, in spite of the hurt I have created, in spite of the sins I have committed.
is that why you think spirituality is independent of deeds?
Rishi nodded.
You should be happy about that.
Believe me, I am. It has brought meaning to my life, stabilized me. Otherwise, I would have spun out of control. Quieting my mind and meditation has saved me.
You're so very lucky, my friend.
Yes, I am lucky because I have found the spiritual path, or rather, it has found me. I'm also unlucky because I'm aware of how the mind works. I can talk all I want about how the mind should stay in control, but I know how my own mind can break the banks and lead me through a horrifying ride. Knowing very well how I should have behaved better is downright painful.
Rishi looked down.
When I went upstairs, I fought with myself. I've become spiritual, and yet my ego is so strong and alive. It's stronger than ever. It may have become a little dormant, but beneath the surface, it's still strong.
Travis shook his head.
You know it's strong in all of us.
Travis, if you hadn't challenged me today, I probably would have gone forever without reconciling with my wife. Knowing that I could have done that is so painful. How could I even think that way? Man, this is hard. This is so hard.
Rishi, stop beating yourself up. Not many people would have accepted their mistake and agreed to put their ego down.
I hope someday my spirituality will rise to the level where my mind becomes completely at peace and my ego is sublimated.
It'll happen. I know it will.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you so much.
Rishi touched his heart.
Would you please bless me by touching me on the forehead?
Sure.
Travis got up and came close. He touched the space between Rishi's eyes with his thumb. Rishi closed his eyes.
Would you please put your palm on my eyes, then touch the top of my head?
Travis obliged. After a minute, Rishi opened his eyes, looking calmer. He pressed his hands and bowed.
Thank you.
Sure, buddy. Anytime.
Do you want to stop?
No. I want to finish our discussion.
You sure?
Sure, I'm sure.
Travis looked directly into Rishi's eyes.
I'm not much different from you on how close I am to the edge. I must seriously try spirituality now so I don't go off the deep end. I really must.
You won't go off the deep end. I promise you won't.
Travis nodded.
Okay.
I could use some fresh air. Maybe sit out on the patio?
Sure, I'll follow you.
Travis picked up a bottle of apple juice for himself. Rishi picked an orange. They sat under a big umbrella.
Man, this is nice weather.
Luckily, it's still March.
He looked up at the clouds.
This world is so painful when you're not at peace, but so beautiful when you're at peace.
End of chapter 17. Confession. Takeaways from this chapter. Family is the most important thing for many of us, yet we ignore and abuse our relationships to chase misguided external goals. Our lives are much bigger than the events in our life. Good and bad times all pass. Smile. Smile all the time. Every person on earth faces challenges and problems at some point in their lives. Calming our minds is the only way to face life's challenges in the best manner.